Well, welcome back to another episode. And I thought it'd be interesting today to talk about how harmful a mistaken money belief can be to certainly to your financial well-being, to your emotional well-being, to your physical well-being, and how hard it is to determine if we have a mistaken money belief. Because obviously, when we really believe something, we totally don't believe that we're mistaken, right? So understanding what we believe about money is really crucial. I have often quoted my friend Richard Wagner, who unfortunately passed away in 2017, on a number of things because he was a philosopher of money, so to speak. And he would often say that understanding money and how it works is a 21st century survival skill. Now, you might think, well, okay, yeah, it's important to know how money works, but come on, is it a survival skill? Is it a survival skill in the same way that if you moved to where I live, South Dakota, in the 1800s, you had better understand how to build a sod house, how to raise and butcher livestock, how to sew, how to garden, first aid. I mean, it was up to you to understand all these things that were survival skills. So what is it that understanding money and how it works is a 21st century survival skill? Well, another thing that Dick liked to say is money touches everything that we do. And I would challenge you to come up with something that money doesn't touch. I could do the whole podcast on that, but that's for another day. So it's not an exaggeration that money is a survival skill for us today. What we don't know about money, and here's the catch and the important thing of our episode today. What we don't know about money, as well as what we think we do know about money, has the potential to literally kill you and those you love. Okay, Rick, you are really going over the top now. Come on. Well, recently I read a comprehensive research project done by Columbia University, and it was done on the impact of social factors on mortality. And it found that 4.5% of U.S. deaths could be attributed to poverty. All right, so what's the connection there? Well, research overwhelmingly supports a huge correlation between financial literacy and illiteracy, and especially illiteracy, and not having enough money. So what it's finding out is what we believe, what we understand about money, those being what we understand being a survival skill. How does it work? Absolutely impacts financial literacy, and not knowing creates financial illiteracy. So 4.5% of people of people in poverty, their deaths can be attributed to being in poverty. Okay, so understanding how money works is a big deal. And I hope I've made somewhat of a case for you there. Now, here's the problem. Most of us don't know what we don't know. And most of us, there's a number of things that we think we know that we don't know. And I can be example number one. In the Enneagram, which is a self-development program, I am a type 1. And generally speaking, type 1s think they know. So I'm speaking to you on something that I think I know. Maybe I don't know, right? And it was just a humbling experience as I grew older and hopefully wiser, that so many of the things that I was sure that I knew, I didn't know. Or there was flaws, there were errors. And my condition is probably exacerbated because of my personality than most Americans, but I'm not alone. Most Americans apparently think they know a lot more about money than they actually do. Now, this shouldn't be surprising. Craig Hawley did an article in Kiplinger in 2019. And he found that 71% of Americans say they are financially literate. They know about money. I teach a course at Golden Gate University and was reading a paper of one of my students where I suggest that they have blind spots and maybe they could use financial planners. And this particular student said, I have no need of a financial planner. There's nobody I trust more with my money than me. And I was thinking, I think you have missed a lot of the content of this course, because we all have blind spots. And we all think we know a lot about what we don't know. Now, maybe 71%, I mean, how do we know that 71% of Americans say they are financially literate and that they aren't? Well, by another research study, by age 40, 66% of Americans can't answer 5 questions and get them right on the fundamental concepts of money, or understand 3 basic financial literacy topics. And I could spend the rest of the podcast on those, and maybe I will in the future. So if 66% are found to be financially illiterate, but 71% think they are financially illiterate, this would suggest there's a lot of those that think they are financially literate that are absolutely not literate. Another data point is in 2019, Go Banking Rights did a survey, and they found that 7 out of 10 Americans had saved less than $1,000 in cash. In other words, if 70% of Americans needed $1,000, they would have to borrow, put something on a credit card, or sell something to come up with $1,000. So when you add all these data points together, I think we could conclude that the facts do not suggest we are a nation of financial literates. So, what's up with the disconnect between what our actual and perceived levels of financial competence are? Well, probably the biggest thing is that it's part of the human condition. For most of us, facts don't matter unless they align with our worldview. And if they don't align with our worldview, it's probably only the very curious among us maybe I should say the most mature among us that can stand to say, wow, that's not at all as I understand it. Please share more data with me in a very honest and open way. And I think we all can agree in the times that we're in right now that we've probably never been in a time in our nation's history that facts don't matter. Maybe so. I have no evidence or research behind that, but certainly right now, don't confuse me with the facts is almost a mantra in our society. So it becomes really painful. I mean, why? Why are we not, quote, logical? Well, we are logical. Even when it appears we're being illogical, even when it appears that we're denying a really clear-cut fact, we are being logical because we are reacting to our worldview. We are reacting to our core beliefs. And so this is one reason that we will immediately dismiss anything that can challenge those core beliefs. Why? Because challenging our core beliefs is incredibly threatening. There's all sorts of difficult emotions around being wrong or discovering more information that suggests I held a belief that wasn't right. And this isn't about making somebody wrong. It's about being able to pivot, being able to take in more information. We see this happening in science today, and especially with the virus, that early on there were many beliefs that were held that turned out to be wrong. And part of what a scientist does, who I think by training is very curious, is to find it easy to say, oh, I was wrong. I did an experiment, it didn't work. I know one thing that doesn't work, or one thing that's not the answer, so I can move on to the next thing. But on a personal level, we find that very threatening. So it's not unusual for us to hold a whole lot of shame around discovering that we were incorrect in a belief. It can be very, very painful. And so what happens is our system shuts down the possibility of any pain. Like, no, that would be too painful to find out anything different that a part of us really believes, it's always believed is correct. And in this case, we're talking about money. And so other parts of us that kind of manage things are like, no, we are holding to this belief. Because if it's not right, this other part of us is going to scream bloody murder and be in so much pain that it's going to be overwhelming. And we don't want that. So, one question that I would throw out there then is, how do you know if you're firmly held world beliefs, if you're firmly held beliefs on how money works are putting you and your family at risk? How can you tell if you are part of the 71% of Americans who think you're financially illiterate, but you're not? Well, I've already said one indicator, it's not absolute, but one indicator would be, are you one of the 7 out of 10 Americans that have under $1,000 in a savings account? Other possible red flags would include a lot of credit card debt that you have. And this is kind of a side. I just saw a study on South Dakotans that said South Dakota is number 51 out of 51 states and territories having the lowest credit card debt. So I applaud my fellow South Dakotans in that. I just had to get in something pro on South Dakota, right? So do you have a lot of credit card debt? Anytime you've got credit card debt that rolls ahead, if I put on my financial hat, that's too much. Do you have a lot of anxiety? Stay awake at night worrying about money. Do you have a lot of shame around your financial situation? All of these would be indicators that maybe you think that you may know more about money than you do. Of course, the person that probably is most at risk is the person that says, nope, none of those apply to me, and I know a lot about money. And actually, they're not even aware that some of those do apply to them, especially the feelings, right, of shame or chronic anxiety. It might be surprising to you that people that actually can have these feelings don't know they're having them because they're buried so deep. So let's say that you have enough awareness to say, you know what, I think I might fall into that camp. I really think that I know how money works, but when I look at my behavior and I look at my life, it's not bearing fruit of someone that understands money. Okay, so that's another way to tell is do my behaviors, do my beliefs align with my values and my behaviors? So what do you do if you think that maybe you really don't know how money works? The first step is to become willing to unlearn everything you think you know about money. Now, this is not easy. It's not easy at all. A friend of mine, Ed Jacobson, who also passed away a couple of years ago, liked to talk about the beginner's mind. And I can honestly tell you that adapting a beginner's mind towards something that I think I know is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. It is, there's stuff that we all think or believe that is so deeply ingrained we don't even question it. So this can be really hard. But it's necessary for us to begin to take a look at these long-held beliefs and all of the shame there is in the U.S. around having and not having money. Okay, so maybe you say, Rick, I really don't think I have any shame around money. I run into this with fellow financial professionals all the time. So here's a quick test. See if you have any shame about money. Because you might say, heck, I read about money. It's in the headlines all the time. My friends talk about money. That's not the type of talking about money or the shame that I'm talking about. Here it is. Ask the next 5 people that you see how much money they make and how much they're worth, and then share with them the same information about yourself. Here's how much money I make each year, and here's what I'm worth. Now, if you can do that with ease, you don't probably have any shame around money. If that just makes you cringe listening to it, brings up difficult emotions, yeah, there's probably some shame around money. And I would say, 9 out of 10 Americans, maybe more, have a lot of shame around money. And this includes financial professionals. And there was some research done in October of 2018 at the Harvard Business School that said 80% of the people in the survey would actually pay money to stop coworkers from receiving an email containing their salary information. Wow. Why is that? Why? And that's regardless of our profession. Do we dislike? Do we fear? We have difficult emotions around telling people how much we make or what we're worth. So, one thing that you might do if you're curious about yourself is just think about telling 5 people what you make, what you're worth, and then write down all the one-word feelings that can come up around that. And don't censor yourself. And then write down all the thoughts or beliefs or reasons that come to your mind that would keep you from either asking that question or answering that question. And I bet some really interesting things will come up if you really are transparent with yourself. Now, for example, some of the common words that come up are terror, panic, embarrassment, shame, guilt, shock, surprise, anxiety. Some of the thoughts, and actually if you want to do this, maybe it'd be best to turn off the podcast right now and do it. Some of the thoughts that come up are, if I ask that, people will reject me, think I'm a nutcase. If people find out what I'm worth, they will shame and reject me. It's too vulnerable to share financial information. I'd rather talk about the details of my sex life. I'm afraid of being hurt, rejected, and shamed if I ask someone about their finances. If people find out I don't have much money, they'll lose respect for me. They'll take advantage of me. If people find out I have a lot of money, they'll lose respect for me and take advantage of me. If they make more or worth more than me, I'll feel small and insignificant. If they make less or are worth less than me, I'll feel guilty and unworthy about having more. People don't like people who make more money or are worth more money than them. And the last one that comes to mind is a person's net worth is equal to their self-worth. All right? So, shifting these beliefs that we have about money, coming to understand what we really believe about money, and the feelings we have around that, could be easier for us to address when we understand that many of them come from childhood. Many of our beliefs, in fact, I would say most of them, come from observing what our caretakers did and didn't do around money, what they said and didn't say around money, what teachers said, what we picked up on society saying. The chances are these beliefs that you had about money may have served you at that time, but as your life has changed, it is typical that we subconsciously hold on to these beliefs without realizing that they may no longer be useful because they seem to be absolutely true. I want to close this podcast in that light with a poem, and I typically am not a poem type guy, but it's a poem from Robert Bly, whose work focuses on men's emotional growth. And I think it really hits just what I was talking about, these parts of us that were picked up these beliefs when we were young, when things were a little crazy around us, when there was, if I can use the word, and we've had a podcast on, there's financial trauma happening. I think this addresses that. Here's the poem. There's a boy in you, about 3. He's 3 years old. He hasn't learned a thing for 30,000 years. Sometimes it's a girl. This child had to make up its mind how to save you from death. He said things like, stay home, avoid elevators, eat only elk. You live with this child, but you don't know it. You're in the office, yes, but live with this boy at night. He's uninformed, but he does want to save your life. And he has. Because of this boy, you survived a lot. He's got 6 big ideas. 5 don't work. Right now, he's repeating them to you. What are those? What do we believe that is not helpful to us around money? So, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to being with you next time. Take care.